On October 28, 1994, the world's most infamous fighting game was unleashed on the unsuspecting public. That game would be known as Shaq Fu and would turn out to be the bane of existence for almost all video game players back in the day. Almost. In 2008, a website would be born behind enemy lines known as ShaqFu.com with the sole intent of wiping Shaq Fu from the planet. However, in August of 2009, an opposition would be born. This opposition would defend the Shaq attack and attempt to fight back in their own crusade with the website known as SaveShaqFu.com. Thus, the crusade to destroy and save Shaq Fu had begun. Sometime in between looking up the life history of various Japanese AV idols and my next topic, I decided to take a little detour. A detour to one of my favorite pre-Facebook popularity websites. And it was simply known as ShaqFu.com. Instantly a wave of nostalgia rushed through me, something I hadn't felt in about 12 years. The archaic website formatting, the oddly placed ads, and most importantly the old shockwave format to have an quote-unquote interactive website. So, quick side note, the only way to properly view ShaqFu.com in its entirety the way it was originally meant to be seen is to utilize the old Shockwave Flash Player plugins. Now, most of the modern day browsers don't have access to that, so the only way to view it properly is to utilize Internet Explorer. If I can go off on a quick tangent. Despite the fact that we've all talked shit on Internet Explorer and it's been memed to death and everything, let's be real. How many of you have actually gotten off your ass to delete Internet Explorer?
You shall not pass!
But maybe that's just me, I'm pretty fucking lazy. Many of you watching probably already know what Shaq Fu is, and if not, it was very... You wanted to be in this video so bad. Oh, buddy. You want to be in the video, buddy? And we mean very poorly received fighting game in the mid-90s starring Shaquille O'Neal. I won't go into the production of Shaq Fu today, but it could use its own video in the future. However, I'll link in the description to a YouTuber named SNESDrunk who shares a similar opinion to the game that I have. So most of you are probably already aware of what Shaq Fu is, but I mean, let's be real, you're on the fucking internet. Of course you know what Shaq Fu is. However, there's probably a lot of you that don't know what ShaqFu.com is, and if that's the case, my friend, you're in for a treat. As previously stated, ShaqFu.com was birthed in 2008 with one simple goal, or a declaration as it were, to hunt down and genocide all copies of the Forbidden One, to obliterate every last copy and wipe it from the earth so that people would never again be witness to the scourge known as Shaq Fu. But emulation exists so you could never actually get rid of it. When first entering the site, you're greeted with the Shaq Fu intro, which you can't enter normally now, but can utilize a skip tab at the bottom. Upon entering the site, you're met with a home page and 6 tabs off to the left to help navigate the stalwart knight in their holy crusade against Shaq Fu. At the bottom of the main page are various links to articles detailing worst of lists or reviews of the game. Most of these are dead or lead to weird top 10s where I assume Shaq Fu was mentioned here before. ShaqFu.com represents everything I love about pre-2010s and pre-Channel Awesome internet. Over-exaggerated emotions for the sake of comedy. Anything, and I mean anything, could have a website, a fan base, or some sort of cult following about it. And then those over-exaggerated jokes eventually devolving to people taking them way, way too seriously. And it's all freaking wonderful. First up on the various tabs we have Declaration of Opposition, which is a formal declaration of war against the creation of the Shaq Fu sequel, Shaq Fu Reborn. Which tells me that there's at least a shot that the original creators of the ShaqFu.com website are still monitoring it, because Shaq Fu Legend Reborn came out in 2018. Next is the Our Mission section, which explains in great detail the many infractions that the one called Shaq has inflicted upon the world. Everything from the creation of cinematic genius like Kazam and Steel. Funny enough, what really shows this website is a product of its decade. They go on to talk about how no one cares about the NBA anymore because, quote unquote, it is the end of the economic boom and everyone has become cynical. In this section, they're actually referring to the economic recession brought on by the housing crisis of 2008. Scrolling down a bit further, the creators would list why this must be done. You prevent other generations from feeling the corruption of this game and its evil. You clear up the enormous copies of Shaq Fu lying on the shelves in used console game stores. By doing so, you remove it from the public displays so that people will not be reminded of the game's existence. Purchasing many copies of the game shifts the demand schedule, consequently raising the price. Even though it costs you more money, it reduces the incentive for a non-liberator to buy the game, a worthwhile sacrifice. By getting it from another person, you remove the burden and embarrassment they feel. Well, I felt pretty fucking embarrassed. But on a side note, I actually got this for like 10 bucks, I believe, on eBay. So I'm guessing parts 3 and 4 were kind of a bust then. Venturing further into the ever-expanding tome of ShaqFu.com, we come across the Liberation tab. There are the many exploits, the 4 exploits of these internet crusaders, these, dare I say, rebel lights. If you really want to feel old, the top tab is for FunkoLand, which I have many memories of going to back in the day. This is really the meat and potatoes of the site, as this portion acts as a sort of webcomic for the exploits of the ShaqFu.com, and let's just say it's definitely a product of the times. Welcome to luxurious Suffer, New York. I don't see any Jews. I'll show a few of the highlights off here, but you really should go back and read these yourself, because I don't know, there's just something that stirs up inside me when I look at these. It reminds me of like a simpler time on the internet. Which store are we hitting up today? The rip-off center of the world. Oh, you mean FunkoLand. You wanna know how fucking old this website is? At this point in time, GameStop was still a reputable business establishment. Yeah, they were at one point. For every copy of NBA Live 96 that I find, I will kill one kitten. Later that night. Good old 2008 memes. Almost legal, June 13th, 2004. He does kind of fit the bill. So what's left on ShaqFu.com? A character section that is surprisingly pretty shallow. You basically just click on a characters using Shockwave and it shows their stance. Side note, this isn't actually the full roster of Shaq Fu. It's only the Super Nintendo version of the roster, so what the fuck, ShaqFu.com? Finally, there is the extras section. It links to a lot of fan videos, pictures, and artwork. It shows just how widespread the crusade against Shaq Fu had spread because of this one website. Quite hilariously, there is also a hate mail section. With a lot of these old websites, you get these hilarious hate mail sections, and it was these people that would legitimately write in because they didn't understand that a lot of this stuff was just basically a big joke. And to be fair, the crusade against Shaq Fu, I would say like the ratio between like it being a joke and legitimate hate would be about 50-50. So what can you do? One email in particular summed it up nicely. Let us not fall into the same liberating tactics of the Holy Wars and burn everything for what we perceive as worthless. Oh no, it's way too late for that.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
In fact, this seemingly random website had actually gained a substantial cult following. Everyone from the average Joes to Screw Attack's own Stuttering Craig. In a now deleted video at a convention, Stuttering Craig and fellow co-host Jose attacked Shaq Fu with a chair before dumping it into a urinal, with both of them taking turns urinating all over it. Soon after, a sign was put up and people from all over the convention were obliged to give Shaq Fu the golden treatment at the convention. I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely want to find this video because it sounds fucking hilarious. However, the celebrity endorsements didn't end, as the angry video game nerd himself gave a shout out to ShaqFu.com website in his old Christmas Carol special years back. This would seemingly seal the game's fate, as an early YouTube celebrity had officially given his blessing to the invading Crusaders. All that was left was destruction.
Today, we're gonna blow up Shaq Fu.
Yes!
All hope seemed lost for the Shaqest of Fus. Genocide, destruction, and death seemed to be the inevitable fate of every copy of Shaq Fu. However, hope would arrive a year later, one that charged headfirst into battle, unafraid of what fate may befall them, if only to end the blood spill and carnage that had befallen the land.
King stands alone. Not alone. Go hit him!
This was SaveShaqFu.com. Honestly, I had no fucking idea this website existed until about like a month ago when I decided to look up ShaqFu.com. And after clicking on it and doing a little bit of like digging around the website, I realized it was the perfect antithesis to ShaqFu.com, and I just knew I had to talk about it. The defensive line to save Shaq Fu had been drawn on May of 2009 by website creators only known as AJ and Drac, the Enforcers of Justice. Here they would not only dedicate their war effort to the preservation of Shaq Fu, the game, but also Shaq-related media in the future. In many cases, the creators of SaveShaqFu.com openly called out and challenged ShaqFu.com on their ideals and plans to eradicate Shaq Fu. Their message was simple, yet effective. Together, we can reunite the Shaq Fus of the world and let them live again, and perhaps even get a little more play out of them. Thus, the alliance was born. Something to note, when looking at the SaveShaqFu.com homepage is the Shaq counter on the top right of the screen. Currently, 110 Shaq Fus have been saved. I don't know how accurate this information is, but when you look at how long the site had been active, it doesn't sound implausible. Similar to ShaqFu.com, there are 6 different tabs you can utilize in order to familiarize yourself with the warfront to save Shaq Fu. A news section which sadly hasn't been updated since 2014. Upon initially launching SaveShaqFu.com, received a healthy amount of updates. One news article in particular on June 14, 2009 saw the creators of the website win a copy of Shaq Fu signed by both the nostalgia critic and angry video game nerd themselves. Perhaps a traitor among the ranks of the Crusades, Unfortunately, as time went on, those updates became fewer and fewer until we reached today, where it has been 6 years with no new news on the front lines. But it at least shows at the time the site was healthy and had an active community, so the silver lining at the very least is that those involved with the website at the time were at least able to have some fun. We move on to the game section, which actually has a more fleshed out page than ShaqFu.com's character section. Here it discusses the game's main plot, but also includes a picture development team of Shaq Fu. Nice touch. This brings us to the why section. Don't worry, I intentionally passed over the Shaq-a-log, but we are going to go back to it. The why is pretty cut and dry. Story of a man who continued to receive copies of Shaq Fu's over and over. It was at this point this messiah knew what must be done. It was time to save all Shaq Fu, as they said. We are dedicated to finding and collecting all copies of Shaq Fu, and preventing them from being destroyed when they fall into the hands of the wrong individuals. This all sort of started as a joke until we realized what sort of responsibility was thrust upon us. So at this point you may be asking yourself, what the hell do they do with all the different copies of Shaq Fu? And the answer is simple, my friend, the Shaq-a-log. On the Shaq-a-log, they proudly show off all the rescued Shaq Fus, a la Save the Animal style, giving them their own individual bio and descriptions. Here are some of the highlights. Number 8. This timid Shaq Fu is taking up the fine arts. Here it can be seen posing underneath one of its favorite sculptures. Number 10. A darker-minded Shaq Fu. It is requested we take its picture in black and white so it can match the photo it is trying to be in. This Shaq Fu likes nothing more than to paint in gray, cry in the rain, and construct poorly written poetry. It also seems to have quite a rebellious streak. It classifies itself as one whose soul has fallen into a dark abyss, bleeding out the black ashes into a world full of pain and misery. Depressing indeed. Number 12. We're not really sure what to make of this one. On the one hand, it was lucky enough to have been able to maintain not only its case, but also its manual. However, it also seems to chain itself up like a dog from time to time. Perhaps this is just a view into the twisted, tormented past of this Shaq Fu. And number 108. Saved by Superman 64 on the eve of a science test by not going to this test. This Shaq Fu now collects and watches films that either get nominated for or won the Academy Award for Best Director. However, this kind of raises the validity of the 110 Shaq Fus saved being into question because this was the last one chronicled on the Shaq-a-log. However, at the tops and bottoms of the page, it states that they were either under construction or hadn't cataloged these wild Shaq Fus yet. I actually have no idea when the Shaq-a-log was originally introduced into SaveShaqFu.com, so I'm assuming at this point in the website's lifespan it had just been abandoned. Pretty spiffy collection though. Finally, there is a donation page that states to contact either of the two Enforcers of Justice via email to set up the terms for the preservation of Shaq Fu. The PayPal donation tab is still available, and at the time of this recording, I have reached out to see if I could obtain any additional information on the website. So, 12 years later, what are we left with? A bloody battle for the destruction and savior of an entity, made with the sole intention to be played with. Many warriors in the battle to save and destroy Shaq Fu have came and went with the era of the website. It also helped shape meme culture today, as on these battlegrounds you can find traces and origins of the hyperbolic and oftentimes nonsensical humor that is the internet. So does any and all of this stuff really matter? No, at least in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't. The crusades of ShaqFu.com and SaveShaqFu.com are such a tiny blip in the history of the internet, but I thought it would be a pretty interesting story to tell anyway. And I think I'm going to hold on to my copy of Shaq Fu. The main reason why is if ShaqFu.com is correct in their assumptions and the rampant destruction and genocide of this random game featuring Shaq is going to drive up the price, then I'm potentially holding onto a gold mine. So I think I'll take my chance and hold on to this refugee right here. Oh, bye! Thank you guys so much for watching. I genuinely appreciated that. I want to give a quick shout out to the Psycho Gamers 15 today. He's actually been helping me with quite a few different things the past couple of weeks, and it's been really helpful in terms of getting a lot of this work done. And I just want to extend my appreciation for the guy. He's a really great friend, and if you aren't subscribed and haven't checked out his channel, I have a link in the description below, so definitely go do that. I'm going to keep things brief tonight. I've got a lot of work to do coming up on another video project I'm actually working on. Again, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. Keep things light and rebellious. I'll see you guys in the next video.